In Palestine, health authorities say 23,968 is the updated number of civilians killed by Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip. In Yemen, local authorities report a new Western powers attack on a Houthi facility. In Guatemala City, indigenous and social organizations mobilized in defense of democracy prior to the inauguration of President-elect Bernardo Arévalo. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The number of Palestinians killed by Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip since the current escalation rose to 23,968, the Ministry of Health of the Palestinian enclave reported. The number of people killed by Israeli operations in the Gaza Strip since October 7th rose to 23,968, while the number of people wounded increased to 60,582, according to a ministry representative in statements to local press. In the last 24 hours, 135 people were killed by Israel's 12 attacks on civilian infrastructure. These figures mean that 1 in 20 Palestinians are already dead, wounded or missing from Israeli attacks. Russia and other countries are urging Israel and Hamas to agree a ceasefire and advocate a two-state solution approved by the United Nations in 1947 as the only possible way to achieve lasting peace in the region. In the Gaza Strip, it's been 100 days since the start of the Israeli genocide, and the United Nations organization is demanding an end to the aggression against the Palestinian people. In a statement, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Middle East deplored the massive destruction, displacement and killing of Palestinian civilians, mostly children, as a result of the persistent Israeli aggression in the Gaza Strip. The agency urged the need for a ceasefire and to ensure that humanitarian aid reaches all those affected. The agency also condemned Israel for the physical and psychological scars inflicted on the Gaza population, which they say will take years to heal. Egypt made a statement on the situation condemning Israel's measures, including the strict inspection processes that prevent the entry of large amounts of products into the territory. Also reminded that his country continues to work tirelessly to enable the entry of a substantial amount of aid to Gaza. The statements of Egyptian authorities are the second official response to Israeli claims before the International Court of Justice, claiming that Egypt is limiting international aid to the Strip, something that Cairo has previously described as false allegations. Meanwhile, Palestinian officials have denounced that over 800,000 civilians are at risk of starvation due to the Israeli policy of limiting the entry of food into the Gaza Strip. They have stressed the need to allow the entry of larger quantities of basic supplies such as food, water and medicine. The Palestinian officials say the international community, especially the United States and Israel, are to be blamed for the impending catastrophe and whatever death may result from the famine and thirst. In Palestine, heavy rains leave displaced people without shelter after flooding from sewage waste. Facilities sheltering thousands of displaced people next to tents in Jabalia, Beit Hanun and Beit Lahi were submerged due to the rains, while flooding shelters in government and the agency schools, along with shelters in the towns of Khan Yunis and Rafah. Therefore, displaced families urge international agencies and the World Health Organization to interfere to stop the Israeli siege and provide shelters to protect civilians against weather conditions. International Forum Freedom for Palestine opened in Istanbul. The Freedom for Palestine Forum, organized with the support of many international institutions, started in Istanbul with the participation of many leading academics, opinion leaders and politicians from many countries of the world and Turkey. The forum, which will continue for 2 days, was attended by the president of Hudapar, Zekeriya Yapıcıoğlu, Vice President of Itindahul Ulema, Suad Yassin, President of the World Union of Academics, Professor Dr. Ali Muhyiddin Karadi, the Palestinian ambassador to Ankara, Fayed Mustafa, the leader of Hamas, Osama Hamdan, the leader of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Mohammed El-Hindi, Nelson Mandela's grandson Mandela, and representatives of important organizations from many countries of the world. Also, the Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh will deliver a speech via teleconference, and many important personalities from the Arab and Islamic world will speak out and discuss Palestinian issues. In Jerusalem on Saturday, hundreds of demonstrators protested, demanding the end of the ongoing war in the Gaza Strip. The demonstrators expressed their displeasure with the handling of the security crisis that allowed Hamas' attack on October 7th and the subsequent offensive of the Gaza Strip. This in regard, they called for early elections with the aim of removing Benjamin Netanyahu from power. Activists carried posters that read, "Palestinian Lives Matter" and "Stop Terrorist Attacks on Settlers," and a reference to what is happening in the occupied West Bank. In Pakistan on Sunday, thousands marched in support of the people of Gaza and demanding a definitive ceasefire. On this 100th day of the war between Israel and Hamas, demonstrations were held in Karachi to condemn the acts against humanity committed in Gaza. The demonstrators waved Palestinian flags and chanted slogans against the United States and Israel. They said all countries should be supporting the Palestinians for all the effort they are making to survive this war. Pope Francis, at the end of the Angelus prayer, launched a new appeal to bring an end to the conflicts, especially in Ukraine, Israel and Palestine, claiming that war in itself is a crime against humanity. He also prayed for the victims of the landslide in Colombia.
Today, war is in itself a crime against humanity. Let us not forget this war is in itself a crime against humanity. The people need peace. The world needs peace. Let us not forget to pray for the victims of the landslide in Colombia, which has caused numerous victims.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. On Sunday, Yemen's Houthi rebels accused U.S. and British forces of bombing a facility in the Al-Lahija district north of the city of Al-Hudaydah. This weekend, Washington and London carried out a large-scale offensive against Houthi targets in response to the group's attack on shipping planes in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. The Netherlands, Australia, Canada and Bahrain provided logistical and intelligence support for their air assault, and Denmark, Germany, New Zealand and South Korea signed a joint statement justifying the US and British actions. According to a member of the Houthi group's Security Council, Abdullah Salam Hahaf, the bombings targeted Sana'a, Al-Hudaydah, Damar and Sada. In addition, there were reports of explosions in the city of Taiz. On Saturday, Italian Defense Minister Guido Crosetto said Italy is ready to take part in a possible European Union against the Ansar Allah movement in Yemen. Minister Crosetto's statement was broadcast on the TG1 news program of Rai One television network. He said Italy will certainly take part in one of such operations because 15% of the world's maritime trade passes through the Red Sea, and Italy is the most affected country. The minister said Italy already has a ship in the area to protect Italian cargo vessels. Regarding the strikes on Yemen, Cruzado said Rome was not offered to take part in the attacks because the Italian government would need parliamentary approval to join in any military action. In the Italian central region of Tuscany, 64 people were injured when a section of an attic collapsed amid a wedding party. The old Yancherino convent turned into a restaurant was hosting a wedding party for some 70 guests, mostly young people, when, as they were dancing, a 3-meter crater opened in the floor and most of them fell off from a height of 4 meters, with 6 people sustaining serious but non-life-threatening wounds, although 2 suffered trauma to the head. Among the 64 injured, there are 20 minors. Through a post on social media, Tuscany Governor Eugenio Ianni praised the work of the over 100 rescuers involved, which include health workers, firefighters, law enforcement, volunteers, civil protection, and municipal police. On Sunday, India's Foreign Minister Subrahmanyam Jaishankar began a 2-day visit to Iran. Upon his arrival, the Indian Foreign Minister met with his Iranian counterpart Hossein Amir Abdollahian to discuss issues pertaining to bilateral diplomatic relations, regional and international developments, political cooperation, connectivity initiatives, and about strengthening bilateral ties. Relations between India and Iran date back centuries, having shared a border until 1947 and retaining common linguistic, cultural traits and traditions, as well as entreating close trade and energy ties. Germany's government disapproval rating rises to 76%, record level in polls. According to the Survey Institute, the government's disapproval rating has risen, while the support level has dropped to 17%, which represents the lowest result since the government came to power in December 2021. Germans expressed their discontent and low level of support with German Prime Minister Olaf Scholz's performance. Meanwhile, the Christian Democratic Union, the former Prime Minister Angela Merkel's party, together with the Christian Social Union, received 30% support. In Colombia, at least 40 people were killed on Friday when a landslide swept away an indigenous community in northwest of the country, increasing the list of 30 people injured so far. Meanwhile, the government of Gustavo Petro promised all available aid to those affected according to a new assessment of the events, as the search for more victims under mud and water continues. Some national government officials said that President Petro is expected to arrive in the area of the landslide on the Quibdó-Medellín road. The landslide took place on Friday afternoon and buried several vehicles that were stopped, apparently due to an avalanche that had previously blocked the road between Medellín and Quibdó, capital of city of Chocó region. On Sunday, authorities reported that floods in the town of Kinshasa have left hundreds of people affected and homes destroyed. According to an official report, the Congo River has reached its highest level in over 60 years, causing flooding in the entire region and in the neighboring country, the Republic of Congo. In recent months, nearly 300 people have died in the region and 300,000 homes have suffered some damage, plus tens of thousands of houses have been destroyed. The flooding has occurred along the banks of the Congo and Ubangi rivers, and the United Nations has warned the flooding may prevent access, therefore the arrival of medical supplies and personnel to an area which could potentially experience an outbreak of waterborne diseases such as cholera. In Syria, floods have caused the death of 4 people and huge losses in crops and homes in the coastal province of Tartus. According to local authorities, a family was killed in a traffic accident caused by torrents of water in the Akkar Plain region. The Kika Department Major Sami Kadour said there was a 5-year-old boy among these victims. Moreover, Provincial Agricultural Director Ali Yunis said flooding has affected 4,000 greenhouses and dozens of homes in the area. Hundreds of Iceland citizens were evacuated due to the outbreak of volcanic activity in the southwest of the country. The Reykjavik Meteorological Office reported that the eruption occurred on Sunday after a series of earthquakes near the city of Grindavik. They also detailed that lava is flowing between 400 and 600 meters from the upper houses in the north of the city, while workers in the area recovered the machines used in a road construction in the town. It is worth remembering that Iceland is on a volcanic point located in the North Atlantic and has an average eruption every 4 or 5 years. On Sunday, Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida toured the Noto region in north-central Japan, the area affected by deadly earthquakes of January 1st. According to a report by the Japanese Fire and Disaster Management Agency, over 20,000 people are sheltering in some 400 schools, gymnasiums, community centers, and other makeshift facilities. Kishida visited one such school in Wahima City, where he saw firsthand the dire living conditions of the evacuees. The Prime Minister pledged to work to help those affected resume their normal lives as soon as possible and sign off 4.7 billion yuan, which is close to $32 million for relief efforts. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Guatemala, indigenous people from different points of the country arrived at the Public Prosecutor's Office today to support the presidential inauguration of Bernardo Arévalo and Karin Herrera. The traditional authorities invited the population to appreciate the 105 days of uninterrupted peaceful resistance against the coup d'etat and scheduled the beginning of the activities at 5 local time with a Mayan ceremony. The demonstrators were joined by residents of several cities throughout the country. Antonio Garcia, an Arif leader from Olopa municipality in Chiquimula, reported to the press that he came to continue defending democracy and the people at this point, adding that they are seeking to avoid breaking the peace process and the rule of law, to defend the constitution and not to violate the popular will expressed in the polls. On Sunday, heads of government, high-ranking officials, foreign ministers and diplomats from more than 60 countries will take part in the inauguration of President-elect Bernardo Arévalo. The president of Honduras, Xiomara Castro, was one of the first leaders to arrive in the country this Saturday, along with European Union High Representative for Foreign and Security Policy, Josep Borrell, Portugal's Minister of Foreign Affairs, João Gomes, and Mexico's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Alicia Bárcena. It is also expected the arrival of the King of Spain, Felipe VI, the President of Paraguay, Santiago Peña, and the President of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, among others. Ecuador controlled and killed this Saturday a number of prison riots that broke out simultaneously amid this week's wave of criminal violence. The government also released more than 150 hostages who had been held hostage by the inmates. Through a message on the social network X, Ecuador's President Daniel Noboa confirmed the release of all the hostages who had been held in the prisons of the cities of Esmeralda, Latacunga, Ambato, Cuenca, Azogues, Loja, and Machala since the beginning of the week. The riots had become the focus of the ongoing violence that broke out on Tuesday with a series of attacks in different parts of the country. According to the authorities, the riots of the last 5 days claimed the lives of at least 4 people, among them a guard and 3 prisoners. In El Salvador, health authorities warned about a considerable increase in the number of patients detected with COVID-19 and other seasonal respiratory diseases during the last 2 days. El Salvador's health department reported an increase of 31 positive cases of the disease in the country and reiterated the government's commitment to attend the most vulnerable people at risk of developing the disease. However, they did not discard the possibility that the JN1 subvariant is already present in the country, so tests were sent to the National Health Institute to identify the variants and that circulate in the nation. According to the Minister of Health, Francisco Alavi, 100% of the residents in senior centers have already been vaccinated and urged families to vaccinate their elderly in order to prevent respiratory infections caused by the different viruses. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.